It began with the skies. Not the kind of skies you'd expect from a storm or a solar eclipse, but something far stranger. On the morning of March 23rd, the heavens turned black. Not dark, not cloudy, but black, as if someone had painted over the atmosphere with ink. It was global, instantaneous. One moment, the sun was shining. The next, it was gone. No stars, no moon, no light from above. Just an oppressive void that seemed to press down on the earth like a suffocating blanket. At first, people thought it was some kind of freak atmospheric event. Scientists scrambled to explain it: volcanic ash? A meteorological anomaly? But none of their theories held up. Air traffic ceased immediately. Satellites went silent as if swallowed by the abyss. The blackout wasn't just visual, it was technological. Radios hissed static, GPS systems failed, and even the internet became erratic. The world's infrastructure began to collapse within hours. Then came the sound. It started as a low hum, barely audible at first, like the vibration of a distant engine. But it grew louder and louder until it was deafening, a resonant pulse that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. People covered their ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't just heard. It was felt in their bones, in their teeth, in their very thoughts. Some claimed they could hear whispers within it, alien voices speaking in languages no human could understand. Panic spread like wildfire. Cities descended into chaos as power grids failed and communication lines went dead. Governments declared states of emergency, but without any means to coordinate their efforts. Their responses were fragmented and ineffective. Looting and riots broke out in major urban centers. Rural areas fared no better as fear drove people to paranoia and violence. And then they appeared. They didn't arrive in ships or beams of light or any of the ways Hollywood had prepared us for. They simply were. One moment there was nothing. The next, they were there, towering figures cloaked in shimmering fields of light that seemed to bend reality around them. They stood in silence at first, scattered across the globe in seemingly random locations. Times Square, the Sahara Desert, Siberian tundras, remote islands in the Pacific. Their forms were almost impossible to describe. Humanoid, yet not, shifting and flickering as if they existed on multiple planes at once. Attempts to approach them ended badly. Military forces were deployed to contain them, but any soldier who got too close simply vanished. No flash of light, no sound, just gone as if erased from existence. Drones and robots fared no better. They would malfunction or be reduced to smoldering heaps before they could get within 100 meters of the entities. The media dubbed them the Shrouded, though some called them angels or demons or gods depending on their beliefs, or lack thereof. Religious leaders proclaimed it was Judgment Day. Conspiracy theorists claimed it was an elaborate government hoax. Scientists were at a loss for words. For weeks, humanity watched helplessly as the Shrouded stood motionless in their chosen locations. They made no demands, issued no threats, nothing to indicate why they were here or what they wanted. But their presence alone was enough to drive people mad. Suicide rates skyrocketed. Cults sprang up overnight worshiping or opposing them. Nations teetered on the brink of collapse. And then came the shift. It happened without warning on April 15th. A sudden distortion that rippled across the planet like an invisible wave. People found themselves frozen in place for several minutes, unable to move or speak, or even think clearly. When it passed, everything seemed normal again, except for one thing. The Shrouded were gone. Or so we thought. It wasn't until days later that we realized what had changed, that they hadn't left at all, but had somehow infiltrated. Reports began trickling in of strange occurrences. People disappearing without a trace. Others claiming to see glimpses of the Shrouded out of the corners of their eyes, only for them to vanish when they turned to look directly. And then there were those who changed. At first, it was subtle. A neighbor acting strangely distant or a co-worker suddenly quitting their job without explanation. But soon it became clear that these weren't just behavioral shifts. These people weren't people anymore, or at least not entirely human. Their eyes glowed faintly in dim light. Their voices carried an unnatural resonance. Some even displayed abilities that defied explanation. Telekinesis, pyrokinesis, things straight out of science fiction. The world spiraled further into chaos as paranoia took hold. Who could be trusted? Was your friend still your friend? Your spouse still your spouse? Governments collapsed under the weight of suspicion and infighting, while splinter groups formed alliances against perceived threats both alien and human alike. But amidst all this turmoil came a discovery. A breakthrough made by a ragtag team of scientists working out of an abandoned research facility in Iceland. Using data collected during the shift along with fragments recovered from malfunctioning technology near one of the Shrouded's original sites, they found something extraordinary. A pattern encoded within the hum that had accompanied their arrival. A message buried within noise. It wasn't just random gibberish. It was deliberate, intelligent, alien. For the first time since this nightmare began, humanity had proof. We weren't alone. And whoever, or whatever, the Shrouded were, they weren't here by accident. The discovery of the encoded message changed everything. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a universe far more complex and interconnected than humanity had ever imagined. The hum, the sound that had driven so many to madness, was not an attack, but a form of communication. A language, though alien in its structure, was undeniably deliberate. It was proof that the Shrouded were not mindless invaders or indifferent gods. They were something else entirely. Something that could be reasoned with, or fought if it came to that. For the first time in months, humanity found a purpose beyond mere survival. The fragmented remnants of governments, scientific institutions, and militaries began to coalesce around a singular goal: understanding the message and preparing for whatever might come next. Nations that had once been bitter enemies set aside their differences. Borders became meaningless in the face of an existential threat, and the petty squabbles of the past seemed laughable compared to the enormity of what lay ahead. The United Nations, long dismissed as a toothless bureaucracy, was reborn as the United Earth Coalition, UEC. Its mandate was clear: coordinate humanity's efforts to decipher the alien message, rebuild global infrastructure, and prepare for the possibility of conflict. For the first time in history, humanity truly united, not under one flag, but under one purpose. The first step was to rebuild what had been lost. Power grids were restored, communication lines re-established, and food supplies distributed to areas ravaged by chaos. The global economy was restructured into a resource-sharing system. Money became irrelevant when survival was at stake. Scientists from every discipline pooled their knowledge to analyze the encoded message, while engineers worked tirelessly to develop new technologies based on what little they could glean from alien phenomena. But it wasn't just about rebuilding, it was about evolving. Humanity had been given a glimpse of a universe far larger and stranger than anyone had dared to dream. The realization sparked an intellectual renaissance as philosophers, theologians, and thinkers of all kinds grappled with questions that had once seemed abstract. What does it mean to be human? Are we alone in our consciousness? What is our place in the cosmos? Meanwhile, militaries around the world underwent a transformation of their own. The UEC established a unified defense force known as the Terran Vanguard, a coalition of soldiers, pilots, engineers, and strategists drawn from every nation. Their mission was twofold: defend Earth from any potential threat and explore ways to counter the Shrouded's seemingly invincible technology. One of their first breakthroughs came from an unlikely source: music. A composer in Vienna noticed that certain frequencies within the alien hum resembled harmonic patterns found in human compositions. This insight led to the development of resonance mapping, a technique that allowed scientists to isolate specific elements of the alien signal. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a crack in the armor of incomprehensibility. As months turned into years, humanity adapted to its new reality. The Shrouded remained an enigma, silent and motionless wherever they had chosen to manifest, but their presence no longer inspired blind panic. Instead, they became symbols of both fear and determination, a constant reminder of what humanity had overcome and what still lay ahead. The world began to heal in ways no one could have predicted. With war no longer an option and survival dependent on cooperation, old hatreds faded into memory. Former enemies worked side by side in laboratories and factories. Cities once divided by conflict became hubs of innovation and culture. Even religion found common ground as faiths across the globe interpreted the Shrouded's arrival not as a challenge to their beliefs, but as an expansion of them, a testament to the infinite possibilities of creation. But peace did not mean complacency. Humanity knew better than to assume the Shrouded were benevolent, or even neutral. Their silence could just as easily be a prelude to destruction as it could be an invitation to dialogue. And so, while scientists continued their work on decoding the alien message, the Terran vanguard prepared for war. Orbital defense platforms were constructed using salvaged satellite technology. Experimental weapons designed to disrupt electromagnetic fields were tested in secret facilities. Fleets of spacecraft, still crude by alien standards but revolutionary by human ones, were assembled for reconnaissance and defense. And yet, despite all these preparations, there was an unspoken understanding among those who led humanity's efforts. If it came down to a fight, they might not win. The Shrouded's abilities defied explanation. Their technology operated on principles that seemed more like magic than science. But if humanity couldn't match them in power or knowledge, perhaps it could outmatch them in something else. Resilience. For all its flaws and failures, humanity had one trait that set it apart from anything else in existence: its refusal to give up. Time and again throughout history, humans had faced impossible odds, plagues, wars, natural disasters, and emerged stronger for it. If the Shrouded thought they could break humanity's spirit with fear or confusion, they were mistaken. And so Earth waited, united but wary, as scientists worked tirelessly on decoding the final layers of the alien message. Each breakthrough brought new insights into the Shrouded's nature, but also new questions. Were they explorers, conquerors, refugees, or something beyond human comprehension? Whatever they were, whatever they wanted, humanity would be ready. Because if there was one thing every person on Earth now understood, one truth that transcended language and culture, it was this: the universe may be vast and unknowable, but this little blue planet would not go quietly into its night. Not without a fight. The arrival of the tic-tac-shaped ships was as baffling as it was terrifying. They appeared without warning, descending from the blackened skies like falling stars, silent and impossibly fast. There were 12 of them in total, scattered across the globe in a pattern that defied any obvious logic. One hovered above the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii, another over the dense Amazon rainforest, another over the frozen expanse of Antarctica. Cities like Tokyo, Cairo, and New York found themselves host to these enigmatic objects, while others chose remote and desolate locations where no human eyes could witness their arrival firsthand. The ships were pristine white, smooth as polished stone, and utterly featureless. They seemed to absorb radar signals rather than reflect them, rendering them invisible to most tracking systems. They moved with an eerie precision, hovering motionless for hours or darting across the sky in ways that defied every known law of physics. There was no visible propulsion system, no wings or exhaust ports, just a seamless oval shape that exuded an aura of quiet menace. At first, humanity assumed these were weapons, some kind of alien war machine sent to finish what the Shrouded had started. The Terran vanguard scrambled into action, deploying fighter jets and drones to intercept the objects. But every attempt to approach them ended in failure. The ships would either vanish in an instant or emit a pulse of energy that disabled anything within a certain radius. Pilots reported feeling disoriented and nauseous after encountering the ships, as if their very presence disrupted human biology. The tic-tac ships didn't attack, but their silence was almost worse. They simply hovered there, watching or waiting. Panic spread once again. The fragile unity humanity had achieved after the Shrouded's arrival began to fracture under the weight of fear and uncertainty. Were these ships reinforcements? Scouts for an invasion fleet? Or something else entirely? Governments demanded answers. Scientists worked around the clock to analyze every scrap of data they could gather about the objects. But the ships offered no clues, no signals, no emissions, nothing that could be interpreted as communication. It was only after weeks of fruitless investigation that someone noticed the pattern. A young mathematician working for the UEC's scientific division discovered that the locations of the tic-tac ships corresponded to major geological or ecological features on Earth, places where tectonic plates converged, where biodiversity flourished, where ancient civilizations had once thrived. It was as if the ships were studying the planet itself rather than its inhabitants. This revelation shifted humanity's perspective. If these objects weren't here to destroy us, then perhaps they were here to observe or even learn. The UEC decided on a bold course of action. Instead of treating the Tic-Tac ships as threats, they would treat them as opportunities for dialogue. Using data derived from the alien hum left behind by the Shrouded, scientists developed a rudimentary communication protocol based on resonance frequencies and harmonic patterns. It wasn't much, more like knocking on a door than having a conversation, but it was a start. The first transmission was sent from a research station in Iceland near one of the Tic-Tac ships. A simple sequence of tones designed to mimic mathematical constants, universal truths that any intelligent species should recognize. For 3 agonizing days, there was no response. Then, without warning, one of the Tic-Tac ships moved. It descended slowly toward the ground until it hovered just above the surface. A ripple passed across its smooth exterior like liquid mercury before it emitted a series of tones in return. Tones that matched humanity's transmission, but with subtle variations. It was a reply. The breakthrough reignited hope across the globe. If these beings could communicate, even in such a rudimentary way, then perhaps there was a chance for understanding. Scientists redoubled their efforts to decode the alien tones while diplomats prepared for what might come next. But not everyone shared this optimism. Some saw the Tic-Tac ship's response as a prelude to manipulation or conquest, a test to see how humanity would react. Others believed it was all an elaborate ruse designed to lull Earth into complacency before striking. The Terran vanguard remained on high alert, their fleets positioned strategically around the planet's most vulnerable points. Orbital defense platforms were armed and ready. Experimental weapons capable of disrupting electromagnetic fields were quietly deployed in case things turned hostile. As weeks turned into months, humanity found itself living in a state of uneasy anticipation. The Tic-Tac ships continued their enigmatic behavior, hovering silently or moving with impossible speed, but made no further attempts at communication. And then something extraordinary happened. One by one, the Tic-Tac ships began releasing small objects, spheres no larger than basketballs, that descended gently to Earth like seeds carried by the wind. These spheres emitted faint pulses of light and sound that seemed random at first, but quickly revealed themselves as complex data streams encoded in ways humans could barely comprehend. It was information, vast amounts of it, about physics, biology, astronomy, even glimpses into technologies far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. But there was something else hidden within these data streams, fragments of what appeared to be memories or experiences from an alien perspective. The implications were staggering. These weren't just machines. They were messengers carrying knowledge from a civilization unimaginably advanced, yet willing to share its secrets with us. But why? What did they want in return? And what role did the Shrouded play in all this? Humanity stood at a crossroads once again, faced with choices that could shape its future for generations to come. Would we embrace this gift with open arms, or prepare for betrayal? Would we unlock new frontiers of understanding, or unleash forces we couldn't control? And above all else, could we trust ourselves not to squander this second chance at greatness? The spheres, soon dubbed seeds by the global scientific community, were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Each one seemed to contain a universe of knowledge, encoded in ways that defied traditional logic. They emitted pulses of light and sound, fractal patterns of data that seemed alive, shifting and evolving as researchers attempted to decode them. The seeds were tantalizing gifts, but they were also riddles, puzzles layered with complexity so profound that even the brightest minds struggled to grasp their full meaning. The first breakthroughs came slowly. A team in Geneva managed to isolate a fragment of the data stream, revealing what appeared to be a blueprint for an entirely new form of energy generation, clean, limitless, and far beyond the capabilities of fusion or fission. In Tokyo, another team deciphered a section that described biological processes capable of curing diseases once thought incurable. Yet these discoveries were only fragments of a much larger tapestry, hints at a greater picture humanity could barely begin to comprehend. But with every revelation came unease. The seeds weren't just offering knowledge. They were challenging humanity's understanding of reality itself. The physics embedded in their data contradicted established laws. The biology hinted at life forms that operated on principles utterly alien to Earth. It was as if the seeds were saying, "Your universe is bigger than you think." The United Earth Coalition declared the seeds a global treasure, forbidding any single nation or corporation from claiming exclusive rights to them. Research centers sprang up around the world, each dedicated to unlocking their secrets. Teams worked tirelessly, sharing their findings openly in a spirit of cooperation that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. Yet not everyone saw the seeds as gifts. Religious leaders debated their significance, with some declaring them divine artifacts and others denouncing them as tools of deception. Conspiracy theorists claimed the seeds were Trojan horses, designed to infiltrate Earth's defenses or manipulate humanity into complacency. Even within the scientific community, there were whispers of doubt. Why would an advanced civilization share such knowledge? What was their true motive? The Tic-Tac ships remained silent observers throughout it all, hovering motionless above their chosen locations or darting away whenever approached too closely. They seemed indifferent to humanity's struggles to understand the seeds. Or perhaps they were simply waiting. Then came the first catastrophe. At a research facility in Mumbai, scientists attempting to replicate one of the alien energy systems inadvertently triggered an explosion that leveled the surrounding area. The blast released an electromagnetic pulse that knocked out power grids across half of India and left thousands dead or injured. Investigations revealed that the team had misinterpreted a critical aspect of the seed's data, a mistake born not of negligence, but of ignorance. The incident sent shockwaves around the globe. The seeds were no longer seen as purely benevolent. They were dangerous, their knowledge like fire in the hands of children. The UEC imposed strict regulations on all seed research, requiring multiple layers of oversight and international collaboration before any experiments could proceed. But even as caution prevailed, so did determination. Humanity had come too far to turn back now. The seeds represented not just survival, but transcendence, a chance to leap forward as a species, to become something greater than what we had been. It was during this period of cautious optimism that another message arrived. This time, it wasn't encoded in sound or light, but in action. One by one, the Tic-Tac ships began moving again, not erratically or randomly, but with purpose. They converged on specific locations around the globe. Ancient ruins in Mesopotamia, submerged structures off the coast of Japan, remote mountain ranges in South America. Archaeologists and historians were stunned. These sites have long been subjects of speculation, places rumored to hold evidence of lost civilizations or unexplained phenomena. Now it seemed the Shrouded, or whatever intelligence controlled the Tic-Tac ships, were pointing us towards something buried in our own past. Excavations began immediately under UEC supervision. What they uncovered defied belief. In Mesopotamia, beneath layers of sand and stone, they found artifacts that predated human civilization by tens of thousands of years. Machines constructed from materials unknown to Earth, but bearing unmistakable signs of intelligent design. In Antarctica, buried beneath miles of ice, they discovered a vast structure resembling a cathedral or temple, its walls etched with symbols that matched patterns found in the seed's data streams. And in South America's Andes Mountains, they unearthed what appeared to be a star map, a colossal engraving carved into rock with precision tools far beyond anything ancient humans could have possessed. The implications were staggering. Humanity's history was not its own. Someone, or something, had been here before us, shaping our world in ways we could barely begin to fathom. The discoveries reignited old debates about humanity's origins and its place in the cosmos. Were we alone after all? Or had we been guided, or manipulated, from the very beginning? And if so, by whom? As these questions swirled, another revelation emerged, one far more unsettling. Cross-referencing data from the seeds with geological records revealed a disturbing pattern. Periodic cataclysms throughout Earth's history, mass extinctions, sudden climate shifts, coincided almost perfectly with evidence of alien activity. It was as if someone had been resetting the planet every few million years, wiping the slate clean whenever life reached a certain threshold. The Shrouded weren't just observers, they were custodians. And now they had returned. Humanity faced an existential crisis unlike anything it had ever known. Were we merely another experiment? A species allowed to thrive only until we became inconvenient? Or was there still time to prove ourselves, to show we deserved our place among the stars? The Terran vanguard prepared for war, even as scientists raced against time to unlock more secrets from the seeds and ancient sites. Diplomats debated whether to send another message, or whether silence was safer. But deep down, everyone knew the Shrouded weren't waiting for us to decide. They already had plans for us, plans humanity would either rise against or perish under. The truth came suddenly, like a knife in the dark. After months of silence, the Tic-Tac ships began to move in unison, converging on Earth's orbit. Their purpose was no longer ambiguous. The Shrouded weren't here to observe or guide humanity. They were here to take. The seeds, the cryptic messages, the strange excavations. It had all been a prelude to this moment. Earth, with its perfect balance of resources, atmosphere, and life, was a prize too valuable to leave in human hands. The Shrouded's battleship emerged from the black void above the planet, a colossal construct that dwarfed anything humanity could have imagined. It was unlike the Tic-Tac vessels, a leviathan of alien engineering that seemed to warp space around it. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent glow, as if it existed partially in another dimension. The ship's arrival was heralded by a pulse of energy that knocked out satellites and sent shockwaves through Earth's atmosphere. This was their declaration of intent: surrender or be erased. But humanity had been preparing for this moment. The Terran vanguard had not spent these months idle. Every ounce of human ingenuity, every scrap of knowledge gleaned from the seeds and ancient ruins, had been funneled into one purpose: survival. The unified governments of Earth had built weapons unlike anything seen before, hybrids of human and alien technology designed to counter the Shrouded's overwhelming superiority. As the battleship descended into low orbit, its intentions became clear. It began deploying massive drones, hulking machines that rained down from the sky like meteors, crashing into cities and strategic locations across the globe. These drones were unlike anything humanity had faced before, self-repairing, adaptable, and armed with weapons that could vaporize tanks and buildings in an instant. The first hours were chaos. Despite their preparations, Earth's forces struggled to hold back the tide. Entire cities were reduced to rubble as the Shrouded's drones advanced relentlessly. But humanity didn't break. It adapted. For every city lost, there was a new strategy born from desperation and ingenuity. Then came the turning point. In a secret facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, scientists had been working on something they called Project Prometheus. It was a weapon born from a fusion of alien energy principles and humanity's mastery of nuclear fission. A warhead unlike any other, capable of producing an explosion not just of raw power, but of electromagnetic disruption, so intense it could destabilize even the Shrouded's advanced technology. The problem was delivery. The battleship hovered high above Earth's surface, protected by layers of shielding that rendered conventional missiles useless. But humanity had one advantage the Shrouded hadn't accounted for: our audacity. A team of Vanguard pilots volunteered for what was almost certainly a suicide mission. Flying experimental spacecraft reverse-engineered from Tic-Tac observations, they would carry Project Prometheus directly into the heart of the alien battleship. It was a plan born from desperation, but desperation had always been humanity's greatest strength. The mission began at dawn. A squadron of human ships launched from hidden bases around the globe, weaving through swarms of alien drones as they climbed toward orbit. The battleship responded immediately, unleashing beams of energy that tore through space like lances of light. One by one, the human ships fell, but not before they cleared a path for the final craft carrying Project Prometheus. Captain Elena Torres piloted that final ship, a veteran fighter pilot who had survived countless skirmishes during humanity's darkest days. As she approached the battleship, its shimmering surface began to ripple and shift, as if anticipating her arrival. Alarms blared in her cockpit as her systems failed one by one under the weight of alien interference. But she didn't falter. With seconds to spare, She activated Project Prometheus and ejected herself into space. The warhead detonated just as her ship collided with the battleship's hull. For a moment, there was silence, a stillness so profound it seemed as if time itself had stopped. And then came the explosion. It wasn't like any nuclear blast humanity had ever seen. There was no blinding flash or mushroom cloud, just a pulse of energy, so intense it lit up the night sky across half the planet. The battleship shuddered as its shields collapsed, its shimmering surface fractured like glass before erupting into a cascade of molten debris. The shockwave rippled through Earth's atmosphere, knocking out power grids and communication systems worldwide. But it also disabled every remaining alien drone on the planet. Without their central command ship, the Shrouded's forces crumbled in an instant. Humanity had done it. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth stood scarred but victorious. Cities lay in ruins. Millions mourned their dead. Yet there was hope, a fragile but unyielding hope that humanity could rebuild stronger than ever before. The seeds remained silent after the destruction of the Shrouded's battleship, as if their purpose had been fulfilled or perhaps abandoned altogether. Some scientists speculated that they might have been tests or traps designed to gauge humanity's potential, or its willingness to fight back. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was that Earth was still ours. In those dark days following victory, humanity found itself united not just by survival, but by something deeper: pride in what we had achieved together. Not as nations or factions, but as one species standing defiant against impossible odds. The stars still beckoned with their mysteries and dangers, but now we knew something we hadn't before. We weren't just survivors, we were contenders. And if anyone else out there thought they could take what was ours, they'd learn what the Shrouded learned too late. Humanity doesn't go quietly into extinction. We fight back, and we win.